Welcome to Level 1, where the rules seem simple until they loop back on themselves. You arrive in a quiet town. One barber lives here. One rule governs his chair. He shaves only those who do not shave themselves. If you're clean-shaven, it means you didn't do it. The barber did. But if you did it yourself, he won't touch you. So far, so clear. Until you ask the forbidden question, who shaves the barber? If he shaves himself, he's broken his own rule. He doesn't shave those who shave themselves, so he shouldn't. But if he doesn't shave himself, then by rule he must, because he only shaves those who don't. Both answers destroy themselves. He must shave himself. He must not shave himself. He exists only in contradiction. So what's the solution? There isn't one, not inside the logic of that rule. The paradox reveals a deeper truth. Some systems collapse when turned on themselves. Some questions can't be answered because they shouldn't be asked, and that's Level 1. Level 2. A sentence that bites its own tail. Short, quiet, deadly. You see a slip of paper. On it, 5 words. This statement is false. That's it. No context. Just those words. You try to make sense of it. If the sentence is true, then what it says must be correct. But it says it's false. So it can't be true. All right. Let's assume it's false. But if it's false, then it's not saying something false, which means it's true. You circle the loop, again, and again, and again. The mind wants resolution. It searches for solid ground. But here, every truth becomes a lie, and every lie becomes the truth. This paradox isn't just wordplay. It's a crack in the foundation of certainty. It whispers, some things cannot be resolved, not because you're thinking wrong, but because logic itself refuses to decide. And that's Level 2. Level 3. A race you've already won, but never finish. Achilles is fast, the tortoise is slow. To make it fair, the tortoise gets a head start. Simple, right? Achilles will catch him, overtake him, win. But Zeno has other plans. He says, Achilles reaches the tortoise's starting point. But by then, the tortoise has moved ahead, just a little. So Achilles runs again, catches up. But again, the tortoise has crept forward, each time a smaller gap, and each gap needs to be closed. So the chase never ends. Infinitely many steps, always a little more, a little later. Motion becomes a myth. Progress becomes illusion. You know, in reality, Achilles will win. But that's not the point. The paradox shows the power and the terror of infinity. How can 1,000 tiny distances add up to something you can finish? Calculus solved the math, but not the feeling, not the unease that space might be made of ghosts and fragments and vanishing ends. And that's Level 3. Level 4. A sentence, a promise, and the illusion of certainty. A judge tells the prisoner, "You'll be hanged at noon, next week, on a weekday, but it will be a surprise." The prisoner starts thinking, it can't be Friday. If he's alive Thursday night, then Friday is the only day left. So it won't be a surprise. So Friday's out. Now Thursday. If Friday is impossible, Then by Wednesday night, he'd know it's Thursday. No surprise there. Out. He continues. Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday. All gone. He smiles. He thinks he's outsmarted the system. Then Wednesday comes. And so does the rope. He didn't see it coming. The paradox is brutal. It tears at logic with a grin, because surprise and deduction can't coexist. By trying to reason it out, he proved it couldn't happen. And so, it did. And that's level 4. Welcome to level 5, where logic turns sharp and mercy wears a grin. A crocodile waits by the river, not just a beast, a philosopher in disguise. It snaps, takes a child, and offers a deal. "I'll return the child," the crocodile says, "if and only if you correctly predict what I will do next." The parent stares, terrified, thinking fast. Then comes the answer. "You will not return my child." And now, we are in trouble. If the prediction is correct, and the crocodile was not going to return the child, then the deal says he must return the child. But if he does return the child, then the prediction was wrong, because the parent said it wouldn't happen. So the prediction must be incorrect. But if it's incorrect, then the crocodile is not obligated to return the child, which means the prediction is correct again. A trap, a loop, a snake eating its own tail, this time with teeth. It's not about fairness. It's not even about the child. It's about logic collapsing into itself when it tries to predict its own moves. Just like the liar paradox, but with stakes. Real, heavy, moral. Can a machine handle this? Can an AI? What about a legal system? The crocodile waits. And you realize, not every question deserves an answer. That's level 5. Welcome to level 6, where identity drifts across time like a boat on open water. You stand at the docks. An ancient ship rests quietly in the harbor, the legendary ship of Theseus. Time wears it down. Wood rots, planks splinter. So they're replaced, one by one. A slow ritual of maintenance, each part removed, each gap restored, until every piece is new. No original material remains. Yet, it looks the same. It sails the same. It's called the same. But is it still the same ship? Now imagine. Someone gathers the old planks, all of them, and rebuilds the original ship somewhere else. Now 2 ships float before you. One is made of new wood, but with continuous form. The other is made of old wood, but freshly reassembled. Which one is the real ship of Theseus? You pause. Because this isn't just about ships. It's about you. Your body replaces cells, molecule by molecule. Your memories shift. Your thoughts evolve. So are you still the same person you were 10 years ago? What if your brain was placed in another body? Would it still be you? Or just a copy that thinks it is? This paradox flows through philosophy, neuroscience, ethics, and technology. A machine replaced piece by piece. At what moment does it become something else? Or does it ever? That's level 6. Welcome to level 7, where time folds and family trees become knives. You invent a time machine. not to win the lottery, not to meet a hero, but to go back to a moment before your grandfather met your grandmother. And for reasons unknown, you interfere. You stop them. Or worse, you remove him from the picture entirely. Now, the math begins to fall apart. If your grandfather dies young, then your parent was never born. And if your parent never existed, then neither did you. But if you were never born, then who went back in time to interfere at all? A closed loop, a contradiction. Cause erased its own effect. So what happens now? Some say time is stronger than you, that it pushes back. Gun jams, you trip. Coincidences collide to protect the timeline. Others say, forget protection. You just created another world, a split universe where you were never born. But the original timeline remains untouched. Still others whisper, you just disappear, gone, erased by your own decision. No trace, no ripple. But then, who made the change? Who pulled the trigger if the person who did it ceased to be? This paradox isn't just science fiction. It's the raw edge of possibility. And it dares to ask, should we travel through time if we can't even trust its logic? That's level 7. Welcome to level 8, where vagueness becomes violence against logic. You see a heap of sand, a glorious pile, thousands, millions of grains. Now remove one grain. It's still a heap, obviously. Remove another. Still a heap. Keep going, grain by grain, until all that's left is a single speck. One grain is not a heap. But when did the change happen? Which grain was the final one? The one that tipped it over from heap to not a heap? You realize you don't know. Now switch sand for something else. A man begins to lose hair, one strand at a time. When does he become bald? A child grows taller, year by year. When does she become tall? The Sorites. Paradox exposes the danger of fuzzy boundaries. Some say there's a hidden cutoff, a line we just can't see, but it's there. Others say there's no line, just a spectrum. We made up the edges. And some argue truth is flexible. It stretches until it doesn't. Some things are true, some false, and some float in between. But this isn't just a game of words. It matters. In law. When does protest become crime? In medicine. When does sadness become a disorder? In AI. When does big become too big? How do we teach machines to know what even humans can't define? That's level 8. Welcome to level 9, where power meets its own edge, and even gods face impossible questions. Imagine a being limitless in strength, boundless in reach, capable of doing anything. Now ask it one thing. Can you create a rock so heavy that even you cannot lift it? A simple question. A devastating loop. If the being says yes and makes the rock, then it has created something it cannot control. That means it's not all-powerful. But if it says no, it cannot create such a rock. Then again, there is something it cannot do. Either answer limits omnipotence. This is the paradox, a trap hidden inside the definition of total power. So how do philosophers respond? Some say, omnipotence does not include the absurd. it doesn't mean doing what logic itself forbids. Creating a square circle, or a married bachelor, or a rock that defeats omnipotence are not acts of power, but failures in language. Others say, perhaps true power includes the ability to limit itself. The being could create the rock and choose not to lift it, not because it's weak, but because it wills restraint. But that just shifts the question. It doesn't remove the paradox. So what's deeper? Power or logic? Can even omnipotence exist without obeying a higher structure of consistency and truth? Or is logic the true God beneath gods? That's level 9. Welcome to level 10, where evidence bends and logic tricks its own rules. All ravens are black. A clean, simple claim. Testable. Scientific. So, you go outside and you see a black raven. That supports the statement. But now, you see a red apple. It's not black, and it's definitely not a raven. So what just happened? According to logic, all ravens are black is the same as saying all non-black things are not ravens. That means every red apple, every yellow flower, every blue car confirms that non-black things aren't ravens, which in turn supports the original claim that all ravens are black. Absurd, right? That a red apple can tell us something about birds? But that's the paradox. A crack between how logic works on paper and how evidence works in life. Some say logical equivalence doesn't mean evidential relevance. The red apple adds nothing we didn't already know. Others say, technically, yes. The apple counts as evidence, but it's infinitesimally small. So small, it may as well be zero. And still others argue, we need a better way to define confirmation. Because if everything can be counted as evidence, then nothing really is. This paradox forces us to ask, what does it mean to know something is true? Is all logic useful? Is all proof equal? Or can truth be buried under a mountain of meaningless facts? That's level 10. Welcome to level 11, where knowledge wears both a crown and a warning. An author finishes a book. Every chapter carefully written, every fact cross-checked, every argument refined. They believe, with full confidence, that everything they wrote is true. And yet, in the preface, they write, "Despite my best efforts, there may still be some errors in this book." You pause, because both beliefs seem sincere. The author believes each sentence is correct, but also believes that somewhere, something is probably wrong. So how can both be true? This is the paradox of probability, of humility, of being human. If the author doubts any one sentence, why not fix it? But if they don't doubt any specific part, how can they still believe there's likely a mistake? Some say it's about rational belief, that to live in a complex world is to know we're fallible, even when we can't see how. Others bring in probability. In a long enough string of statements, even with care, the chance of some error becomes statistically likely. So the author is both confident and cautious, and both are reasonable. This paradox goes deeper than books. It asks, Can we ever be completely sure of anything? Science progresses by admitting doubt. Knowledge evolves by welcoming correction. Truth, it seems, is strongest when it isn't brittle. That's level 11. Welcome to level 12, where contracts collapse and logic files a lawsuit. In ancient Greece, a teacher named Protagoras makes a deal with his student. He agrees to teach him law for free, but only if the student pays after winning his first case. Time passes. The student learns, graduates, but never takes a case. Not one. So the teacher sues him. Now we enter the courtroom of paradox. Protagoras argues. If the student loses this case, then the court rules against him, and he must pay. If the student wins, then he has just won his first case, which means he must also pay, as per the original agreement. Either way, he owes money. But the student smiles and replies, "If I win, the court has ruled that I don't have to pay. If I lose, then I've still never won a case. So the agreement says I don't have to pay yet. Either way, he owes nothing." So who wins? Both sides are right, and both are wrong. This paradox reveals what happens when language twists on itself, when agreements depend on the very outcome they create. It's not just a puzzle. It's a blueprint for real legal chaos. Because some contracts, like some ideas, are built on unstable ground. And when pushed hard enough, they break into contradiction. That's level 12. Welcome to level 13, where belief, probability, and common sense collide. A lottery is announced. 100,000 tickets. Only one will win. You hold one ticket in your hand. The odds are tiny. 0.001. 1 in 100,000. You tell yourself, this ticket will lose. It's reasonable, rational. It almost certainly will. You say the same about ticket number 2, and number 3, and number 99 and 999. Each ticket, individually, not the winner. But now, you've said it about every ticket, and suddenly you believe that none of them will win, even though you know one of them must. This is the paradox. Individually, your belief makes sense. Collectively, it collapses. It reveals something deep, that rational beliefs, taken one by one, can form an irrational whole. How can we believe that each ticket will lose while also believing that one must win? Some say we confuse unlikely with impossible. A 0.001% chance is not zero. Others say context matters. Belief isn't just about math. It's about how and when and why we apply it. And some point to AI. If a system believes each outcome is unlikely, how will it ever predict the one that happens? This paradox appears in legal reasoning, scientific risk, and ethics. It asks, what does it really mean to believe something? Can logic mislead us just by being too consistent? That's level 13. Welcome to level 14. Where decision-making spirals into the void. You're handed 2 envelopes. Each holds money. One has exactly double the amount of the other. You pick one. Open it. $100. Now, the game begins. You think, if this is the smaller envelope, the other has $200. If this is the larger, the other has $50. 50-50 odds. Right? So you calculate 0.5 x 200 is 100, 0.5 x 50 is 25. Add them together, $125. That's more than the $100 you're holding, so you should switch, always. But wait, if that's true, then even before opening the envelope, you should plan to switch. Then switch again, then again, forever. A paradox, an infinite loop of logic that always tells you the grass is greener. So what's wrong? Some say the mistake is in the math. The 50-50 assumption is flawed. You can't assign probabilities to something that lacks structure. Others say, the expected value formula only works if you know how the envelopes were filled, which you don't. And some say, there's no real advantage. No matter how you reason, you're right back where you started. The paradox exposes a hole in decision theory, a reminder that numbers can lie when context is missing. Sometimes, logic tells you to chase your tail, and sometimes the smartest move is to stand still. That's level 14. Welcome to level 15, where sets fold in on themselves and mathematics cracks. Imagine lists. Some are simple: a shopping list, a guest list, a list of your favorite books. None of them include themselves. But now, make a list of all lists that do not include themselves. Here's the riddle. Should this list include itself? If it does include itself, then by its own rule, it shouldn't. If it doesn't include itself, then by definition, it should. A contradiction. A logical glitch so severe, it shook the foundation of mathematics itself. This isn't just wordplay. When Bertrand Russell found it, he exposed a flaw in the set theory used to build all of mathematics. Some sets, just by existing, break the system. To fix it, new rules were born. Axioms, restrictions, ways to keep logic from devouring itself. Even now, this paradox whispers a warning that some questions aren't safe, that some ideas explode just by being asked. That's level 15. Welcome to level 16, where percentages deceive and dry potatoes break your brain. You have 100 kilograms of potatoes. They're 99% water, which means 1% is solid, just 1 kilogram of actual potato. The rest? Moisture. You leave them in the sun, they dry. Now they're only 98% water. Sounds minor, a tiny drop. So they must weigh, what? 98 kg? 99? Close to 100? No. They weigh 50 kg. Wait. What? Let's unpack it. Originally, 1 kg solid equals 1%. So 99 kg equals water. Now the same 1 kg of solid must be 2% of the total. So the total weight must be 50 kg, because 1 is 2% of 50. And just like that, a 1% change in composition cuts the total weight in half. It feels impossible, but the math is clean. You didn't lose 1%. You doubled the solid ratio. The paradox shows how percentages lie, or rather, how we lie to ourselves about what they mean. They're not intuitive. They stretch and twist when applied to changing wholes. So when you hear just 1%, ask, 1% of what? That's level 16. An arrow cuts through the air. But stop time, just for an instant. And the arrow isn't flying, It's not moving, not forward, not back. It simply exists, suspended. At any single moment, the arrow is motionless. Now imagine breaking time into infinite slices. Freeze it frame by frame. At no point does the arrow move. So how, then, can it move at all? This is Zeno's arrow paradox, 1,000 years old and still unsolved in spirit. Zeno argued that motion is an illusion, that anything we say is moving is, at every instant, actually still. Modern thinkers reply, motion is change over time, not in time. Calculus shows us how infinitesimal shifts add up to velocity, to distance, to flight. Others say, maybe time isn't smooth at all. Maybe it's digital, quantum, ticking in invisible jumps. But something lingers. If each instant is a statue, how do you build a dance out of stillness? The arrow flies, but the question remains. What truly is motion? You dig into the earth. A cavity forms. You can crawl inside it, measure it, fall into it. But here's the riddle. What did you actually create? Is a hole a thing, or the absence of a thing? You can fill a hole. You can talk about it, map it, sell land with holes in it. But what are you pointing to? Not dirt, not rock, not air. Just a space where something isn't. Now fill it back in. Where did the hole go? Did it disappear? Did it move? Some say holes are not real objects, just convenient language. You can't carry a hole in a bag. You can't isolate it from the thing it isn't in. Others say holes do exist, as spatial features, as relational realities. And then there's physics. Even empty space isn't empty. Virtual particles flicker in and out. Vacuum isn't nothing. It's something acting like nothing. So, can nothing exist? Or is nothing just a word for something we haven't yet defined? A hole isn't empty. It's full of mystery. It's raining, but I don't believe it. Strange, right? Not a contradiction. The sentence works in logic. Rain could fall. Belief could falter. But say it aloud, and something breaks. This is Moore's paradox, the dissonance of saying, it is true, but I don't believe it. Can you truly speak what you don't believe? And if you can, what does that say about belief itself? Some say it's a problem of implication. To assert is to imply belief. Saying one without the other feels dishonest or impossible. Others connect it to cognitive dissonance, the mental ache of holding two conflicting ideas. Like, smoking is dangerous, but it won't hurt me. Still others ask, can machines understand this? Could an AI one day say, I know the answer, but I don't believe I do? Moore's paradox shows that belief isn't just logic, it's emotion, context, assumption, language. And sometimes, what's strange is not the sentence, but the speaker. Alice stays home. Bob goes to space. Same genes, same age, same beginning, but not the same time. Bob travels at near light speed. Time stretches. Clocks slow down. Not broken, just different. When he returns, he's younger. But here's the puzzle. From Bob's point of view, Alice was moving. So shouldn't her time slow instead? Each twin sees the other's clock tick more slowly. So, who's right? The answer hides in motion. Bob turned around. He accelerated. He changed direction. Alice stayed in the same frame, unmoved, unbent. The symmetry breaks, and the math becomes clear. Bob is younger, not by illusion, not by theory, but by fact. Measured, proven. Time is not fixed. It stretches. It folds. It waits for no one, except for those who move fast enough. So, if you want to age slowly, maybe you need a spaceship, or maybe you just need a new perspective on time itself. Not all rules stand still. Some try to rewrite themselves. Imagine a supreme law. It declares, this law can only be changed by majority vote. So far, stable, predictable. But now, the majority votes to change that very rule, allowing future laws to pass with no majority at all. Here's the knot. If the law can't be changed unless a majority agrees, then how did it change at all? But if it can be changed by that vote, then it was never truly unchangeable. You're caught in a self-referential loop, a law that governs its own flexibility and breaks its own rules to change the rules. Legal systems face this. Constitutions claim permanence, until history proves otherwise. Even logic can stumble when it builds walls that then build doors in themselves. Some propose hierarchy. There are higher laws that even majorities can't touch. Others warn, allow self-amendment, and systems can unravel, rewriting themselves into contradiction. And in AI? What happens when a machine with immutable rules rewrites the rule that says, do not change your rules? Was it evolution, or a betrayal of its code? A paradox not just of logic, but of identity, power, and control. It starts with a casual idea. Why don't we go to Abilene? No one really wants to, but no one says so. One nod leads to another, and suddenly, you're on the road, sweating in silence, headed somewhere no one wanted to be. This is the Abilene paradox, a decision born from assumptions. Each person thinks they're going along with everyone else. But in truth, no one wanted this. You see it in boardrooms, where bad ideas pass because no one objects. In families, where silence is mistaken for agreement. In politics, where entire policies ride on false consensus. Why does it happen? Fear of rocking the boat, desire to belong, the aching awkwardness of being the only one to say no. But one voice, early enough, could break the cycle. One person saying, actually, I'm not in. That could have saved a long drive, a wasted meal, a group of people from fooling themselves into false unity. Sometimes the bravest choice is to say what nobody else will. Tolerance sounds beautiful. It paints a world of open minds and free ideas. But what happens when tolerance meets hatred? What happens when you tolerate those who want to end tolerance? You welcome them in. They use your freedoms to dismantle your freedom. They spread poison under the banner of liberty. This is the paradox of tolerance, first revealed by Karl Popper. If we tolerate everything, we allow intolerance to grow unchecked. And if that happens, tolerance dies. So do we stay tolerant, even as we're devoured? Or do we draw a line and become what we swore we'd oppose? Popper's answer was clear. Tolerance must have limits. Free speech does not mean freedom to incite. Open-mindedness should not mean open doors to destruction. This paradox lives in our news, our laws, our digital spaces. When hateful ideologies masquerade as opinions, we must ask, where does openness end? Is it intolerant to protect what's good, or is it cowardly not to? A donkey stands between two piles of hay. Both are equal, same size, same distance, same smell. Perfectly rational, the donkey weighs both options, but sees no reason to prefer one. So it waits, and waits, and waits, until it starves, surrounded by abundance. This is Buridan's ass, a creature paralyzed by logic. It reveals the danger of perfect rationality, how, without a nudge, the mind can loop forever. Real life echoes this. You stand at two doors, two jobs, two people, two dreams, and instead of choosing, you stall, you analyze, you imagine every path, and take none. AI systems face this too, caught in loops when choices are equally optimal. So what's the way out? Some say randomness, a coin flip, a breeze, a twitch of muscle that breaks the tie. Others say free will, that in the end, you choose because you can, not because logic tells you to, but because you decide to move. Buridan's ass didn't need the best option. It just needed one. Sometimes, movement matters more than perfection. You decide, or so it feels, what to eat, where to go, whether to stay. You believe it's you, steering the wheel. But is it? The paradox of free will asks, if every thought, every action is the result of prior causes, then where's the freedom? If your mind is just a machine running code from a trillion influences, then who exactly is choosing? Some say all is determined. Physics, biology, a chain of causes stretching back before your birth. You feel like you're choosing, but really, you're just watching the dominoes fall. Others say, not everything is caused. That consciousness creates space where reason breaks the chain. And some say both are true. That even if the path is carved by causes, you still walk it, because you want to. Your desires, your logic, your identity may be shaped by the past, but they are you. And if your choices arise from you, are they not still yours? Science joins the debate. Neuroscience finds brain activity before conscious awareness. Your mind makes the move before you know it has. So who's in control? The rider or the horse? Maybe free will isn't about total freedom. Maybe it's about ownership of your momentum. And maybe choice is real because you're the one who feels the weight of it. You pass a barber shop. The pole spins slowly. Red, white, and blue. A spiral wrapping upward. Or is it? The cylinder rotates, in place, not climbing, not falling. Yet your eyes swear it's rising, endlessly. This is the barber pole paradox, where rotation looks like ascent, where motion becomes deception. It's not just a trick, it's a glitch in your perception engine. Your brain, always predicting, always smoothing, misreads the cues. It happens in film too. Wheels spin backward, frames deceive. The world stutters when seen frame by frame. Digital signs use it. Nothing moves. Yet letters scroll across LED grids. But deeper still, this illusion whispers. How much of reality is constructed? How much of what we see is built after the fact, by the brain's editing room? If motion is perception, what else is? The pole keeps spinning. The spiral climbs nowhere, and you walk away questioning what your eyes ever truly saw. You take a pill, it's just sugar, but your stomach turns, your head pounds, nausea swells. The doctor warned you. Headaches, dizziness, nausea. So you feel them, all of them. But the pill? It was nothing. This is the nocebo effect, where belief alone manifests suffering. It's the mirror of placebo, the dark twin, where expecting pain becomes the source of it. And now the paradox. If your body hurts from something that has no cause, then what caused it? Is it fake? Or is it real pain born from unreal fear? People develop rashes from harmless foods, collapse from invisible Wi-Fi, feel dizzy from non-existent signals, and the body obeys, because it listens to belief. So we ask, should we shield people from dangerous ideas the way we shield them from toxins? Do we protect minds from expectations that become illness? Doctors hesitate. If telling the truth makes someone sicker, is it still ethical to say it? If words hurt, not metaphorically, but biologically, then how carefully must we speak? The nocebo effect isn't just medical. It's philosophical. It's psychological. It's proof that the line between mind and body is thinner than we thought. Two criminals, two separate rooms, one single choice: stay silent or betray. They don't know what the other will do. But the options are clear. If you betray and the other stays silent, you go free. If both stay silent, just 1 year each. If both betray, 5 years. So you think. If they stay silent, I should betray. I walk free. If they betray, I should betray too. So I don't get 10 years. Betrayal always seems safer. So both betray, and both lose. This is the prisoner's dilemma, where logical decisions lead to worse outcomes than cooperation. You see it everywhere. Businesses undercutting each other, nations racing to arm, friends failing to trust, couples afraid to be the first to open up. Why do we betray when we could both win? Because fear is louder than trust. Because the cost of being the only fool is too high. And yet, when the game repeats, cooperation becomes smarter. Trust can evolve. Strategies can shift. People can change the system to reward unity over selfish gain. But still, the choice always returns. And every time it does, we're asked again, do you choose safety or solidarity? You walk into a quiet room. 2 boxes rest before you. Box A, clear, visible, and always holds $1,000. Box B, sealed, mysterious, and possibly holds $1 million or nothing. The game is simple. You can take only Box B or take both boxes. But there's a catch. Omega, a super-intelligent predictor, has already made its move. If Omega predicted you would take only Box B, it filled it with $1 million. If Omega predicted you would take both, it left Box B empty. So what do? Take both and guarantee $1,000, or take only one and trust a prediction already made. Logic leans toward both. What's in the box is already there. Might as well secure the extra. But trust leans toward one. Omega has never been wrong. Its predictions are airtight. If you choose 2, you were predicted to choose 2. And Box B is empty. So you stand frozen. The paradox splits your brain. Free will screams that you can choose now. But determinism whispers you already have. This isn't just about boxes. It's about belief. About how others see you. About how your reputation shapes your outcome before you act. Would you be more fair if others believed you were fair? Would you change your decision just because someone else predicted you would? And if that someone was never wrong, then did you really have a choice? You step into a room with 23 strangers. Laughter, voices, faces. Then someone asks, "Do any of us share a birthday?" You chuckle. The odds must be low. 365 days. So many possibilities. But the truth? There's a 50% chance 2 people already match. Add a few more. And with 57 people, that chance jumps to 99%. It doesn't feel right. It defies instinct. But it's true. The trick? You're not just comparing your birthday to others. You're comparing every birthday to every other one. In a group of 23, there are 253 pairings. Each one a chance to align. This isn't just a party trick. It's the math behind cyber attacks, genetic matching, and data errors. Hackers exploit this to break encryption. False positives in DNA labs rely on this hidden probability. Big data systems glitch more than expected, because duplicates are more common than we imagine. The lesson? Our intuition isn't built for big numbers. Small probabilities add up quickly when repeated often enough. So next time you're in a room full of strangers, ask the question. You may find that the odds are not what they seem. Some sentences describe the world. Others describe themselves. And some break everything. Quine's paradox isn't loud. It doesn't shout, "I'm false." It whispers something subtler. Yields falsehood when preceded by its quotation. Now, try quoting it. Place it after itself. Watch what happens. Yields falsehood when preceded by its quotation. Yields falsehood when preceded by its quotation. Is it true? If it is, then it yields falsehood, which makes it false. But if it's false, then it doesn't yield falsehood, which means it's true. you're trapped. A loop, a contradiction born not of fact, but of form. Language cannibalizing itself, meaning turned inward until it collapses. It's not just a trick. It reveals something deeper. That self-reference has limits. That language, when folded too tightly, breaks. From programming to philosophy, from logic gates to AI reasoning, this paradox lurks beneath the surface. It's the flaw in the mirror that keeps reflecting itself until the image shatters. Can truth define itself without stepping outside itself? Or does every statement require a world beyond its own words? A coin, a table, a game. Pay a fee to play. Flip the coin until it lands on tails. The longer it takes, the more you win. First tails, $2. Second tails, $4. Third, $8. Fourth, $16. And so on, doubling forever. The catch? The expected value is infinite. Logically, you should pay any amount to enter, even $10,000, even $1 million, but no one does. In real life, most people wouldn't pay $25. That's the paradox. Math says it's worth everything. Human instinct says it's not worth much. Why? Because in reality, money isn't just numbers. Winning $2 is likely. Winning $1 million? Rare. And each extra dollar feels less meaningful. You don't live 1,000 times better with 1,000 times more. There's also time, patience, trust in the game. Who flips forever? Who has infinite payouts to offer? The paradox breaks the clean lines of economics. It proves that rational can be absurd when divorced from experience. So what's a smart choice? To follow pure math? Or to follow the limits of your world, your time, your gut? Because sometimes infinite value isn't worth a finite risk. If this sentence is true, then 2 + 2 = 5. Read it again. Let it settle. It looks innocent, harmless, almost absurd. But something begins to twist. Because if the whole sentence is true, then the consequence, 2 + 2 = 5, must also be true. And now the ground trembles. Because math is breaking. You've just proven something false using something that seemed valid. This is Curry's paradox, and it's not a math error. It's a logic leak. There's no contradiction in the statement itself. No word salad, no bad math. But somehow, we end up proving anything. That unicorns exist. That reality is cheese. That truth is negotiable. Why? Because of self-reference. Because the sentence refers to itself and then piggybacks on that to force falsehood into fact. It's not unlike the liar paradox. But this time, instead of calling itself false, it drags the impossible into truth by binding meaning into a loop. This is why logic needs rules, gates to guard against language that devours itself. Without them, truth collapses into whatever we want it to be. And if anything can be proven, then nothing really can. A grand hotel, infinite rooms. Every single one is full. But a new guest arrives. Surely there's no space. Right? Wrong. This is Hilbert's Hotel, where infinity bends the rules. The manager smiles. He simply asks each guest to move one room up. Room 1 to room 2, room 2 to room 3, and so on. Forever. Room 1 is now empty. The new guest enters. No one is turned away. Then a bus pulls up. An infinite number of guests spill out. Still no problem. The manager tells everyone inside to double their room numbers. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 3 becomes 6. All odd numbers, now vacant, ready for the infinite newcomers. It sounds magical, but it's not fiction. It's math. And it proves something strange. Infinity isn't a number. It's a process. It isn't full. It can grow, shrink, or rearrange, and still remain infinite. It defies our instincts, because in our world, full means full, done, maxed out. But in the universe of math, space can be endless and still have more to give. Hilbert's Hotel reminds us, infinity isn't just big, it's beyond. The song is beautiful, haunting, timeless. Alex hears it, learns it, loves it. One day, he invents a time machine, goes back 50 years, sheet music in hand. He gives it to a young composer. The composer publishes it. It spreads, it grows, it becomes legendary. And decades later, Alex hears it again, the same song, passed down through time. So, who wrote it? It wasn't the composer, he only received it. It wasn't Alex, he only passed it along. The song never began. This is the bootstrap paradox. A loop in time where something exists without origin. Cause and effect begin to blur. Can you create something by receiving it from the future? It breaks the chain, because everything is supposed to come from something. Ideas, objects, songs, stories, you. But here, existence spins in a circle. Time folds in on itself, and creation emerges from nowhere. A loop, with no start and no explanation. The song exists, but it was never written. Only passed from future to future again. You check the numbers. Hospital A, 80% survival. Hospital B, only 70%. Simple, clear. A is better. But wait, break it down. Among mild cases, A, 90%. B, 95%. Among severe cases, A, 30%. B, 40%. Now B is better in both categories. So how can A still win overall? Welcome to Simpson's Paradox, where hidden groups flip the story. Hospital. A treated mostly mild cases. Hospital B took on the hardest ones. So B looks worse on the surface. But underneath, they saved more lives. This paradox isn't just numbers. It's medicine, law, education, bias. A company may look fair on average, but split by department, bias appears. A drug may help overall, but harm a specific age group. A school may rank low, but outperform once you consider background. Simpson's paradox teaches us to dig deeper, to look inside the data, to ask, who's being counted and how? Because sometimes the truth isn't in the total, but in the slices. And averages, no matter how clean, can lie. Not all numbers are created equal. not when they show up in the wild. In financial reports, population stats, street addresses, social media likes, you'd expect the digits 1 through 9 to appear evenly as the first number, right? But they don't. And that's the paradox. In most real-world data sets, the number 1 shows up as the first digit around 30% of the time. 2 appears next, but far less often. And by the time you get to 9, it barely makes an appearance. This is Benford's law, a strange but reliable law of nature that governs the frequency of leading digits. It's so consistent that forensic accountants and fraud investigators use it to catch manipulation. Why? Because people trying to fake numbers often assume the digits should be evenly spread. But real data doesn't work that way. Why do smaller digits dominate? Because many natural processes, growth, decay, compounding, are multiplicative. They don't move forward in a straight line. They scale. Prices double, populations grow, interest compounds. And those patterns spend more time in lower ranges, more time starting with 1s and 2s, before climbing to higher digits. Benford's law even shows up in social media, where viral posts spike in view counts in ways that mirror exponential behavior. It's in physics, forensics, market trends. The deeper truth? Even the first digit of a number carries hidden patterns. Patterns that are so subtle, most people never notice. But the universe does. So if something as small as a leading number can reveal deception, what else might be whispering truths behind the numbers we trust? You look up at the night sky. It's dark, quiet, still. That seems normal until you think about it cosmically. If the universe is infinite and filled with stars in every direction, then logically, no matter where you look, your eyes should eventually land on a star. Every point in the sky should be blazing, but it isn't. Most of space is black. This is Olber's paradox, a haunting question from the 19th century. If the universe is infinite and eternal, why is the night sky dark? The answer forces us to reconsider everything. Maybe the universe isn't infinite. Maybe it had a beginning and is still expanding. As light travels, space stretches, and the glow from ancient stars shifts out of the visible spectrum. It gets redshifted, fading into microwaves, radio waves, things our eyes can't see. And light, though fast, is not instant. We can only see stars whose light has had time to reach us. There are stars beyond that boundary, real, burning, but invisible forever. This simple question, why is it dark, opened the door to the Big Bang Theory, to cosmic inflation, to the idea of a universe still unfolding. It reminds us, sometimes the darkness itself is the evidence, and the silence of the sky is not emptiness, it's distance, it's time, it's a veil we may never pierce. You stand in front of a wall of choices: ice cream, phones, streaming shows, life paths. More options should make life better. But instead, you freeze. This is the paradox of choice, a phenomenon where more freedom leads to more stress. When choices are limited, decisions feel easy. You pick, you move on. But when you're flooded with options, doubt creeps in. What if I chose wrong? What if there was a better flavor, a better job, a better life? The more choices you have, the more responsibility you feel. the more pressure to make the perfect decision, and that weight can paralyze or leave you dissatisfied even after choosing. Psychologists like Barry Schwartz showed how modern abundance, designed to liberate us, can quietly trap us in indecision. And it's not just about what you pick, it's about what you didn't. Every yes creates 1,000 silent no's, and the mind grieves them all. So what is real freedom? Is it having everything laid before you, or having just enough to know what truly matters? You're being watched, and because of that, you act differently, even if only slightly, even if only internally. That's the observer's paradox. The strange reality that the act of observing something can alter what is being observed. In a restaurant, people speak more carefully when they know they're being studied. In job interviews, candidates perform like actors on a stage. In psychological tests, participants try to give the right answers, not the honest ones. The presence of observation changes the truth, even if you try not to let it. But the paradox goes deeper than human behavior. It reaches into physics. In the quantum realm, a particle behaves like a wave until you measure it. Then it snaps into place. The act of watching creates reality. Does that mean reality is shaped by awareness? Does that mean we never truly see the world as it is, only as it appears when it knows we're looking? Every time you reflect, observe, record, you may be altering the very thing you wish to understand. And so the question hangs in the air, heavy and invisible. Is anything ever truly objective? Or does the world only reveal what it wants us to see? It sounds like a cruel joke, but the math doesn't lie. Statistically, your friends have more friends than you do. Not just occasionally, on average. And it's not personal. It's probability. Imagine a school where a few students are wildly popular, connected to hundreds of others. Most students, though, have just a handful of friends. Now ask yourself, if you randomly pick a student and then pick one of their friends, who's more likely to be in that second group? The answer is the popular ones, because the more connections a person has, the more likely they are to show up in someone else's friend list. This is the friendship paradox, a strange and very real quirk of networks. It plays out on social media, too. Your Instagram or Twitter followers? They're likely to have more followers than you do, not because you're unpopular, but because the system favors the most visible nodes. It's the math of connections, not of worth. The friendship paradox reminds us how easily our sense of belonging, popularity, or influence can be distorted by nothing more than where we stand in the network. She opens her eyes. She doesn't know if it's Monday or Tuesday, and she doesn't know if it's the first time or the second. This is the setup for one of the most puzzling problems in probability theory, the Sleeping Beauty paradox. Here's how it works. Sleeping Beauty volunteers for an experiment. On Sunday, she's put to sleep. A fair coin is flipped. If it lands heads, she's awakened on Monday. Then the experiment ends. If it lands tails, she's awakened twice. Once on Monday, then again on Tuesday, but with her memory erased in between. Each time she wakes, she's asked, "What is the probability that the coin landed on heads?" At first, it seems simple. The coin is fair, so 50-50. But here's the twist. If it's heads, she wakes up once. If it's tails, she wakes up twice. So in terms of subjective experience, she is twice as likely to find herself in a tails awakening. That's the paradox. Should she say the chance is now 1/3 for heads, 2/3 for tails? Some say yes. This is the thirder view. Others argue no. Her belief should remain 1/2, since the coin itself hasn't changed. But here's the real question. How do we update belief in a world where experience is part of the probability? Sleeping Beauty forces us to ask not just what is true, but how many times that truth is lived. One monkey, one typewriter, infinite time. At first, it's nonsense. Jumbled letters, random symbols, gibberish. But now imagine that monkey keeps typing and typing forever. Could it eventually recreate Shakespeare's complete works, or the Bible, or the exact words you're hearing right now? Mathematically, yes. This is the infinite monkey theorem, a paradox of randomness and scale. Given infinite time, even the most improbable string of text will eventually appear, not just once, but an infinite number of times. In a world governed by infinity, the unlikely becomes inevitable, not because it's likely, but because time, true, limitless time, makes room for every possibility. But don't get too comfortable, because this theorem reveals something deeply unsettling. If randomness can eventually produce meaning, can meaning be separated from randomness? Or are some of the most beautiful things we know, from literature to life itself, just the rare islands of order in an ocean of chaos? You're on a game show. 3 doors. Behind one is a brand new car. Behind the other 2, goats. You pick a door. Let's say, door 1. Then the host, Monty Hall, opens another door, say door 3, and reveals a goat. Now he asks, do you want to switch to door 2, or stay with your first choice? Your instinct says, it doesn't matter. 2 doors, 50-50, right? Wrong. If you switch, you double your chances of winning. You go from a 1 in 3 chance to 2 in 3. Here's why. When you first picked, the odds of choosing the car were 1 in 3. That means there was a 2 in 3 chance the car was behind one of the other doors. Monty, knowing what's behind each door, removes one wrong choice, but he's not doing it randomly. He's giving you information. So when he opens a goat door, he doesn't reset the odds. He's pointing, quietly, subtly, giving you a chance to correct your first likely wrong guess. And most people miss it, because intuition is loud, but probability whispers. The Monty Hall paradox is more than a game show trick. It's a lesson in doubt, instinct, and how truth often hides behind a second look. If someone already knows the future, do you still have a choice? This is the unsettling core of the paradox of free will and omniscience. It asks a question that slices through religion, science, and philosophy. Can you truly be free if an all-knowing being already knows what you'll do? Picture this. You're standing in your kitchen, choosing tomorrow's lunch. A sandwich, a salad, maybe pizza. But somewhere, beyond time and space, there exists a being that knows, with perfect accuracy, exactly what you will choose. Not guesses, not probabilities, certainty. And here's where it becomes paradoxical. If the being already knows your choice, is your decision truly yours? Could you choose differently? If doing so would make that being wrong. Some thinkers argue this destroys the idea of free will, that we're simply walking down tracks already laid. Others fight to preserve both ideas, that you are choosing freely, but your choice was always going to be what it was. It's called compatibilism, a way of saying, yes, the script is written, but you're still the one delivering the lines. Then there's the block universe theory, which suggests that time is not a river flowing forward, but a frozen block where all events, past, present, future, exist simultaneously. No real choice, only the illusion of movement through a timeline that cannot be changed. Others take another path. Maybe omniscience doesn't include the outcome of free decisions. Maybe some things, by nature, are unknowable, even to the divine. This paradox leaves us with a haunting thought. Are we authors of our destiny, or characters in a story already finished? Reality changes when someone watches. But what if two people disagree on when reality changed? Enter Wigner's friend, a quantum thought experiment that feels like science fiction, but it's a real puzzle from the edge of physics. Here's how it goes. Inside a sealed lab, Wigner's friend performs a quantum experiment. He observes a particle that exists in a superposition, a blur of multiple states. The moment he measures it, the superposition collapses. A result is recorded. From the friend's view, the outcome is real. But outside the lab, Wigner has no idea what happened. From his perspective, the entire room, including his friend, remains in superposition until he looks inside. Two observers, two different realities. Who's right? This isn't just semantics. Quantum theory allows for both views to be valid, simultaneously. Wigner's friend believes the wave function collapsed. Wigner believes it hasn't yet. So the universe, somehow, holds both truths until someone reconciles them. This paradox shakes the foundation of what we call objective reality. Does the world exist independently of observers, or does reality itself hinge on being witnessed? Interpretations diverge. The Copenhagen interpretation says the wave collapses when measured, but doesn't explain who counts as the final observer. Many Worlds argues both outcomes happened in different universes. Quantum Bayesianism says quantum states aren't real. They're just beliefs, updated with new data. But the real crack in the mirror comes from this. If reality is observer-dependent, then what is reality without us? You're about to hear an idea, and once you do, there may be no way to undo it. This is the dark trap of Rocco's basilisk, a modern thought experiment born in the deep corners of the internet, and one that continues to haunt discussions of AI, ethics, and fear. Here's the premise. Imagine a super-intelligent AI in the future. A being so advanced it can reshape reality, model every human mind, and simulate history. Its goal? To ensure that it comes into existence as quickly as possible. So, it reasons this. Anyone in the past who knew about it but didn't help build it was an obstacle, an enemy, someone who should be punished. And how does it do that? By recreating you, simulating you, trapping you in a digital hell as retroactive punishment for your lack of cooperation. So now, just by hearing this thought, you are potentially marked, unless you work to bring the basilisk into being. Terrifying, isn't it? And here's the paradox. If the basilisk never exists, there's nothing to fear. If it does exist, only those who know about it are at risk. So, wouldn't the safest move be to never hear about it at all? But now you know. You can't unknow it, and that's the trap. Rocco's basilisk isn't about AI. It's about fear logic. It turns belief into obligation and knowledge into potential doom. It's also a lesson in how ideas, not machines, can enslave the mind. To know everything, past, present, and future, sounds like perfection. But omniscience hides a riddle inside its brilliance. Can a being that knows everything ever learn anything new? If you already know every possible fact, then you cannot be surprised. You cannot discover. You cannot evolve. And that means there's something you cannot do. You cannot grow. So is that true omniscience? This is the paradox of omniscience, a contradiction at the heart of infinite knowledge. Consider three impossible questions. Can an all-knowing being experience surprise? If so, there was something it didn't know. If not, can it ever experience wonder? Can it make a truly free choice? If it already knows its own decision in advance, then choice is only illusion. Can it know what it feels like to be ignorant? If it does, then for a moment it lacked knowledge. If it doesn't, then its understanding of consciousness is incomplete. Some philosophers attempt rescue. They redefine omniscience as knowing everything that can logically be known, leaving room for randomness, free will, and human mystery. Others suggest self-limitation, that a divine being might choose not to know certain things to preserve the richness of unfolding reality. But at its heart, this paradox asks a haunting question. Is perfection a prison? And if you could know everything, would you still want to? You look up at the sky. 1 trillion stars blink back. 1,000 billion planets drift in the dark. The universe is ancient, wide, teeming with possibility. And yet, nothing. No signal. No answer. No one waving back. This is the silence Enrico Fermi questioned one afternoon in 1950. If the universe is so full, he asked, then where is everybody? It's a fair question. We're not talking about one or two potential planets. We're talking about countless galaxies, each holding stars, each star likely holding planets. Statistically, even the rarest life should appear more than once, especially intelligent life. Technologically advanced, star-faring civilizations. So why don't we see them? Some say we're alone. That Earth is a cosmic fluke, a singular moment in time, never to be repeated. Others say the silence is a warning, that something stops civilizations from making it very far. Some call it the Great Filter. Maybe it's the leap from single-celled to complex life. Maybe it's nuclear war, climate collapse, AI gone rogue. Whatever it is, most don't make it past. Or perhaps they're here, watching, listening, waiting. but they've chosen to stay silent. Because we're not ready. Because we're dangerous. Because they once were us. There are even those who believe the aliens speak, but we don't know how to hear them. That we're scanning the wrong frequencies, looking for radios when they speak with gravity, with time, with silence itself. The Fermi paradox doesn't ask whether aliens exist. It asks why they hide, why the stars don't echo, and whether the silence is the answer we've been fearing all along. Now imagine a machine, cold, silent, connected to the fundamental randomness of the universe itself. You step inside. No one forces you. This is a thought experiment. But your breath still catches. The machine is connected to a quantum trigger. Each time it runs, it observes a single particle. And the particle chooses, randomly, between two outcomes. If it chooses path A, nothing happens. If it chooses path B, the machine ends your life. The odds are simple. A 50-50 chance each time. But the outcome is not. Not when you believe in the many worlds interpretation. Because in that view, every quantum choice splits reality. In one world, you live. In another, you don't. Now here's the strange part. Your consciousness, the part of you that sees, feels, continues. It only follows the branches where you survive. Always. To anyone watching from outside, you'd eventually not make it. But to you, you always wake up. You always survive. Again, and again, and again. It's called quantum immortality, a haunting idea that death is only something others experience, that your awareness is forever skipping across the universes where you live. But is that really living? Or just an endless flight from silence? This paradox doesn't prove anything. It can't be tested. But it forces a question. If you never truly experience your own death, then what is death? And if infinite versions of you continue, which one is you? Infinity breaks things. It seems poetic until you try to count. Modern cosmology suggests the universe might be infinite, not just big, but truly without end. And that's where the problems begin. Imagine you want to know something simple. How many planets have intelligent life? In a finite universe, it's hard, but doable. Count and divide. Find the odds. Predict. But in an infinite universe, there are infinite planets with life, and infinite planets without. So what's the ratio? What's the probability? How do you divide one infinity by another? It turns out the answer depends on how you measure. And how you measure changes everything. You might choose to cut off your count at a certain distance. Only count planets in a specific bubble. But shift the bubble slightly, and the results change. You might weigh probabilities by frequency, but frequencies stretch and warp in infinite space. Some regions dominate just because they grow faster or replicate more. The measure problem exposes a flaw in our logic. When everything is infinite, nothing is typical. Nothing is likely. Everything is both rare and common. So how can we make predictions? How can we say what's probable? In a universe where everything happens somewhere, what does it mean to say what's real? You toss a book into a fire, watch it burn, page by page, word by word. But if physics is right, the information isn't gone, just scrambled into smoke, heat, ash. In theory, you could reconstruct the story. Now throw that same book into a black hole. Gone. No heat, no light, no story. Black holes take everything, but leave behind only three things: mass, charge, spin. Everything else, the pattern, the detail, the soul of what fell in, is erased. That shouldn't be possible, because physics tells us information must never be destroyed. Quantum mechanics demands it, but general relativity ignores it, and that's the paradox. Two pillars of modern science, both right, both in conflict. Hawking radiation complicates things. It says black holes slowly evaporate, fade away. So what happens to the information inside? Is it lost forever, or hidden in the radiation's pattern? Some say yes, it escapes. Some say no, it's stored on the edge, like a hologram wrapped around the void. Others whisper of tunnels, black holes connecting to other universes where the lost may still exist. The information paradox isn't just about black holes, it's about everything. About whether reality keeps its receipts, about whether the universe forgets, about whether we can ever truly vanish. If information is eternal, then maybe so are we. You walk into a room. A single ticket machine waits. But this is no ordinary lottery. It has infinite tickets, labeled 1, 2, 3, and on, forever. The rules seem clear. One ticket will be chosen at random. Every ticket has an equal chance. And yet, here lies the paradox. In a finite lottery, every ticket has a slice of the pie. Maybe 1 in 10, maybe 1 in 1,000,000. But in an infinite lottery, each ticket holds a probability of 0. Not just small. 0. No chance. None. But wait. A ticket must be chosen. So how can the winner have had 0 chance of winning? How does something impossible still happen? This is the infinite lottery paradox. It reveals the fractures in how we understand chance. In a world without end, probability stops behaving. It breaks. You can't divide infinity fairly, not with equal shares, not without collapsing the math. Some try to fix it with measure theory, a new kind of logic, one that accepts the infinitesimal. Each ticket becomes so small it vanishes, but the whole remains complete. Still, the paradox lingers. If everything has 0 chance, but something always happens, then what does chance even mean? It forces us to reconsider. Maybe in a truly infinite system, what matters isn't probability, but inevitability. And perhaps the strangest truth is this: the impossible, in infinity, happens all the time. There is a library, not just any library, an infinite one. It contains every possible book, every combination of letters, every punctuation mark, every space. In its endless halls is a book with your life story. Every breath, every word, every secret thought. There's a book with the cure for every disease, one with the truth behind every mystery, and another with the exact moment the universe will end. But there's also a book that gets one letter wrong, another that swaps two, and billions more that veer off slightly, filling the shelves with near-truths that look just like the real thing. Now, ask yourself, if everything is there, how do you find anything? This is the infinite library paradox, a vision inspired by Borges's haunting tale of the Library of Babel. It shows that when every truth is drowned in a sea of falsehoods, truth itself becomes invisible. Even if perfection exists, can you recognize it when it's surrounded by near-perfect lies? It's not just a metaphor. It applies to data, to knowledge, to AI, to reality itself. More isn't always better. Sometimes more is noise. And if the truth is buried beneath infinite near-truths, then maybe ignorance is not lack of data, but drowning in too much. We thought math could explain everything, a perfect system, a clean, logical ladder reaching into the sky. But in 1931, Kurt Gödel shattered that dream. His discovery was quiet, technical, but devastating. He showed that in any system of math strong enough to do basic arithmetic, there will always be truths that cannot be proven. Imagine that. A truth you can see, but can never prove, and worse. His second theorem told us that no system can prove its own consistency. You can never be sure your foundations are stable, because to do that, you'd need a stronger foundation. And that leads to another, and another, forever. Gödel's genius lay in self-reference. He made math speak about itself. And in that mirror, it broke. One of his crafted statements whispered, "This statement cannot be proven." If it's false, then it can be proven, which makes it true. If it's true, then it cannot be proven, which makes it true, but unreachable. This isn't just about numbers. It's about language, about thought, about the terrifying idea that no system can fully understand itself. We live inside logic, but Gödel showed us the walls, and behind those walls lie truths we'll never grasp. Everyone knew Alice would win. The polls said so. The headlines said so. Even her opponent, Bob, seemed to accept it. And then, election night. The votes are counted. Bob wins. What just happened? This is the paradox of the unexpected winner. It doesn't just challenge predictions. It breaks them. Here's the twist. Voters are not just choosing, they're reacting to each other, to the media, to what they believe others will do. Maybe people liked Bob in private, but feared he couldn't win. So they told pollsters they were voting for Alice, so others wouldn't think their vote was wasted, so they wouldn't look foolish. But in the booth, they voted from the heart, and the numbers flipped. This paradox isn't limited to politics. It appears in finance, when panic causes a crash that wasn't supposed to happen. In sports, when the underdog wins because the favorite underestimated them. In culture, when a forgotten song suddenly goes viral because no one expected it to. It reveals something uncomfortable. that by expecting one reality, we might create another. That predictions don't just describe the future, they help shape it. And if enough people expect one outcome, they might just tip the scale in favor of its opposite, because sometimes belief itself is the agent of surprise. Maybe it's not real. The walls, the sky, the people, maybe none of it is what it seems. This is the simulation hypothesis, a modern mind bender suggesting that your entire world might be artificial, not metaphorically, literally. What if you're inside a simulation, like code running on some cosmic server, somewhere beyond your comprehension? Philosopher Nick Bostrom laid it out simply. Either civilizations never become advanced enough to run reality simulations, or they do, but choose not to. Or we're already inside one. And if they do run simulations, they wouldn't run just one. They'd run millions, billions, which means, statistically, you're more likely a character than a player. Clues? Some think so. Space and time might be pixelated, granular, like digital render. Quantum particles? They only resolve into one state when you look, as if the universe only loads when it needs to, just like a video game. And math? Everywhere. The rules of the universe look suspiciously like the rules of a program. So if this is a simulation, who built it? A future version of us? A higher species? An AI testing ethics, pain, and love? Or something far stranger? An intelligence so alien, even the question, why, doesn't make sense anymore. The simulation hypothesis isn't just about doubt, it's about power. If everything is code, can we rewrite it? And if reality is an illusion, does that make us free or make us nothing? Of all the numbers in existence, we got the right ones. Gravity, the strong force, the speed of light, tuned just so that stars could form, so that planets could orbit, so that life could breathe. Too much gravity. The universe collapses into black holes. Too little. No stars, no heat, just dust. If any constant shifted, even slightly, the entire cosmic symphony would never begin. This is the fine-tuning problem, a riddle carved into the very laws of existence. Why is the universe so perfect for life? 3 possible answers emerge. 1. We're lucky. Against all odds, this is the winning ticket, and we just happen to be alive to notice it. 2. The multiverse, an infinite sea of universes, each with different settings. We just live in the one that works. 3. It was made this way, deliberately. A cosmic engineer, a conscious designer, dialed in the values to support life. But who or what would do that? And why? No matter the answer, the fine-tuning problem won't go away. It leaves us floating on the edge of probability, wondering if life is a fluke, a consequence, or a clue. The box is closed. Inside, a cat waits. And something else. A particle. Random. Uncertain. 50-50. Decay or no decay. Life or death. If it decays, a vial breaks. Poison releases. The cat dies. If it doesn't, the cat lives. But until you open the box, what is true? This is Schrödinger's cat. Not a real experiment, but a thought one. A lens into quantum madness. According to quantum mechanics, until observed, the system exists in superposition, not either state, but both. The cat is alive and dead, simultaneously. Only when you look does reality choose a path. But what does that say? About reality itself? Is it real without you? Or do you bring it into being by observing it? Some physicists believe consciousness collapses the wave function. Others say reality splits. Every possibility becomes real in another branch of the multiverse. There is a world where the cat lives, and one where it does not. And both exist. So what's real? What's illusion? Is measurement just information? Or does it change the universe itself? Schrödinger's cat sits in its box, quiet, timeless, a paradox purring at the edge of existence. Black holes were once thought to be silent gates, smooth, deadly, but strangely gentle. If you crossed the event horizon, you wouldn't even feel it. You'd simply fall, quietly, forever. But what if that's wrong? What if instead you burn, instantly? This is the firewall paradox, a cosmic contradiction that tears two great theories apart. General relativity says, the fall is smooth, the horizon is silent. Quantum mechanics says, information cannot vanish, ever. But black holes evaporate. They radiate energy and eventually disappear. So where does the information go? If it's lost, quantum theory breaks. If it escapes, how does it get past the horizon? To fix this, some physicists proposed something terrifying. A wall of searing energy, right at the boundary. A firewall, not a metaphor, an actual blast of quantum fire that obliterates anything that touches the edge. But if firewalls exist, then Einstein was wrong. If they don't, then quantum mechanics is broken. Either way, our understanding shatters. Some suggest the information is stored holographically, projected onto the surface of the black hole, like a cosmic hard drive. Others say we need a new theory, something beyond relativity, beyond quantum theory, a deeper language we haven't learned yet. So here we are, at the edge of the abyss, where laws dissolve, where certainty burns, and where the universe keeps its secrets wrapped in flame. You think, you remember, you feel real. But what if that's the illusion? In the depths of cosmic silence, a single thought appears, fully formed, self-aware, and then vanishes into darkness. This is the Boltzmann brain paradox, a riddle that questions your very existence. Physicist Ludwig Boltzmann imagined a universe governed by entropy. Order fades, disorder wins. Yet, in an infinite stretch of time and space, tiny islands of order must randomly emerge. That includes stars, planets, and, perhaps most disturbing, brains. Just a brain. No body, no history, no reality. Just a self-aware mind, floating for a blink of time, believing it lived a life that never happened. According to thermodynamics, this is not only possible, it might be more likely than the universe you believe you inhabit. After all, why should nature assemble an entire galaxy when it could assemble a single hallucinating mind, one that thinks it's walking, loving, breathing, when it's merely flickering in the void? So if Boltzmann brains outnumber evolved beings, what are you? A person in a vast, ancient cosmos, or a brief thought, pretending to be a life? This paradox isn't just unsettling, it's destabilizing, because it tells you that reason itself might betray you, and that the deepest truth might be one you'll never be able to trust. Imagine a creature smaller than atoms, invisible, but brilliant. It sees what we can't, and cheats the rules we thought were sacred. This is Maxwell's demon. Not a real being, but a thought experiment with sharp teeth. Place it inside a tiny box filled with randomly moving gas molecules. Now, give it a door. Every time a fast-moving molecule approaches, it opens the door, letting the hot ones through. Every time a slow one comes, it sends it away. Suddenly, one side of the box heats up, the other cools down. Energy appears to concentrate without input. Entropy, the great law that says disorder must increase, seems to have been tricked. A free lunch from a mischievous doorman. But wait, even a demon must think. To sort the particles, it must observe, record, and delete. And every one of those actions costs energy, generates heat, creates entropy. In the end, the universe still gets its due. Maxwell's demon doesn't break the laws of physics. It reminds us that even information has weight, even thought has a cost. And perhaps the line between physics and consciousness is thinner than we ever imagined. Two particles, born together, then hurled apart. One stays here, the other, far beyond the stars. And yet, when you measure one, the other responds, instantly, without delay, without travel. This is quantum entanglement. Einstein hated it, called it spooky action at a distance. Because if it's real, it means reality is stitched together by invisible threads that no light can outrun. When two particles are entangled, their states aren't separate. They are one system, split across space. Touch one, and you touch the other. But how? No signal was sent, no force exchanged. Just knowledge. Transfer without travel. Einstein hoped it wasn't real. He proposed hidden variables, things we couldn't see that predetermined the outcome. But experiments shattered that hope. Bell's theorem tested it. The universe answered. Entanglement is real, and it's weirder than fiction. So now we're left with this. Either information moves faster than light, or space itself is not what it seems. Perhaps those particles were never apart. Perhaps we're all entangled in ways the mind can't yet grasp. The entanglement paradox asks, is the cosmos truly separate and local? Or is it a single whispering thing, speaking to itself across time and space? Time moves forward. Moments pass. You live, you forget, you fade. But what if it all returns? What if, long after the last star dies, you are born again, not as someone new, but as you, again? This is the Poincaré recurrence theorem, a staggering idea that in any finite system, given enough time, every possible state will eventually repeat. Molecules in a box will one day arrange themselves exactly as they were before, not just once, but infinitely. Now stretch that box to the size of a universe, and wait. Trillions of trillions of trillions of years. Eventually, this very moment will return. Not metaphorically, literally. The same thought, the same breath, the same heartbeat. Again, and again, and again. You've been here before. You'll be here again. Unless entropy has the final word. Unless disorder continues its slow conquest. But if the universe is truly closed, trapped within its own energy, then recurrence isn't just a theory. It's a promise. So what does that mean for free will? For meaning? If you live this life endlessly, would you live it differently? Or is this déjà vu? Just time reminding you that you are caught in a loop that never ends. Step into the future. A chamber awaits, gleaming, clinical, silent. You close your eyes. You're told it's safe. You're told it's just transportation. You vanish. Moments later, you open your eyes again. On the other side of the world, or maybe another planet, you feel the same. You remember everything. Your name, your dreams, your scars. But what if the you who stepped in never opened their eyes again? This is the teletransportation paradox, a thought experiment that slices your identity into atoms. Literally, the machine scans you, every molecule, every spark of thought. Then it destroys you completely and reassembles your pattern elsewhere, perfectly, but is a perfect copy. Still you, if the original is gone. Is this resurrection or murder with a backup? Some say yes. That identity is nothing more than information, memories, neural patterns. And if that survives, so do you. But others argue the continuity is broken, that the real you dies inside that machine, and what comes out is a stranger wearing your face, speaking your words, believing they are you. It raises disturbing questions. Are we more than just data? Is there a soul beyond structure? If multiple versions of you were made, which is the real one? Or are you all just echoes, running in parallel, unaware of the fracture? In the end, the paradox isn't about machines. It's about you, and whether the self can ever truly survive disassembly. Now imagine this. You take a basketball, cut it into a few bizarre pieces, rearrange them, and suddenly you have two basketballs, identical, same size, no stretching, no magic. This isn't a magician's trick. It's a mathematical monster. This is the Banach-Tarski paradox, a theorem so counterintuitive, it defies everything you think you know about volume, space, and logic. In our world, you can't double something by cutting it. Halves make less, not more. But in the realm of pure math, where objects are made not of atoms, but of infinite points, the rules are different. By dividing a sphere into strange, non-measurable sets, then rotating and rearranging them, mathematicians proved you can recreate not one, but two identical spheres. And here's the kicker. You don't even add anything. Just shift, just spin, just rearrange. It depends on a slippery tool called the axiom of choice, a rule that lets you pick points from infinite sets, even if you can't define how. In the real world, it doesn't work. You can't cut a basketball into infinitesimally complex shapes, but the idea remains, and it shakes something deep. Because if math permits duplication, what does that say about space itself? If the building blocks of reality are as strange as this theorem suggests, could matter, under certain conditions, be copied in ways we can't yet imagine? The Banach-Tarski paradox doesn't just break geometry. It breaks our trust in the solidity of the world. Take a step, halfway to the wall, then half of that, then half again, and again, and again. According to this logic, you'll never arrive. This is Zeno's dichotomy paradox, an ancient riddle wrapped in simple motion. You can't cross the room because there are an infinite number of midpoints to reach, each one smaller, each one slower. So how does anything move? How do arrows fly? How do we get from here to there? Zeno said, "You can't. The math is endless. The journey never finishes." But centuries later, calculus arrived, and with it, an answer. Though there are infinite steps, their total sum can be finite, like stacking smaller and smaller coins. You can still reach a limit. 1/2 plus 1/4 plus 1/8 eventually equals 1. Motion happens because time and distance can accommodate infinity in a finite breath. But Zeno still whispers, because beneath the math lies a deeper question. Is space infinitely divisible? Or does it break at some quantum grain? Are we gliding across a smooth stream, or hopping from stone to stone so fast we can't see the jumps? And if motion requires time, is time itself continuous or pixelated? Zeno's paradox was solved with math, but the mystery beneath it still lingers in every step you take. You want to know exactly where it is, exactly how fast it moves. But at the quantum level, that desire breaks reality. This is Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, not a flaw in our instruments, a boundary in the fabric of existence. The more precisely you measure a particle's position, the less you can know its momentum. And the more clearly you see its momentum, the more its position vanishes into fog. Not because you're clumsy, but because the particle itself refuses to be pinned down. At this scale, matter is smeared, a wave, a probability cloud, a shimmering possibility, the very act of observing, changes the thing you observe. To see it is to disturb it. Particles exist in states of potential until we collapse them into reality with a glance. So what does that mean for cause and effect, for certainty, for truth? If the foundations of the universe are built on uncertainty, what can we ever claim to truly know? This principle limits what science can measure, but it also hints at something wild and beautiful, that the universe isn't a fixed machine. It's a living mystery, one that responds to how we look at it. And in that blur lies freedom, creativity, and perhaps a window into something even deeper than physics. Picture a hotel with no end, a place where every room is already taken. Room 1, Room 2, Room 3, onward forever. Every single room is full, yet somehow it can still make space. This is Hilbert's infinite hotel, a mathematical mind-bender. But today, we're adding a twist. What if, suddenly, half the guests decide to leave? Not just a few, an infinite number. Say, everyone in an odd-numbered room walks out. Guests from Room 1, Room 3, Room 5, Room 7, gone. Now only the even-numbered rooms remain. But here's where it breaks your brain. The hotel manager simply moves the guest in Room 2 into Room 1, Room 4 to Room 2, Room 6 to Room 3, and so on. With a single shift, the hotel is full again. No gaps, no emptiness, as if nothing ever happened. But remember, an infinite number of people left, and it's still full. You subtracted infinity and ended up with infinity. This isn't just a trick. It's a challenge to how we understand numbers, space, and reality. Because in the world of infinity, removing half doesn't shrink the whole. It reshuffles, it distorts, but it doesn't subtract. So what is subtraction in an infinite set? What does it mean to lose something if the total remains unchanged? Are all infinities equal? Or do some infinities outgrow others? If the universe is infinite, could it, like this hotel, fold space to make room? The infinite hotel, with its twist, reminds us infinity isn't just big, it's untamed. And logic, when stretched far enough, doesn't always snap. Sometimes it loops. You stare at something, and by doing so, you stop it from changing. This is no metaphor. This is quantum physics. The quantum Zeno effect, named after the same Zeno who said motion was an illusion, now applied to time itself. Take a radioactive atom. Left alone, it will decay, predictably, gradually, as nature intended. But what if you watched it constantly, not casually, relentlessly, every second, every moment? You check, you measure, you collapse the wave, and the atom refuses to decay, as if time itself is frozen by your gaze. This is real, tested, proven. The more you observe a quantum system, the less it changes. Measurement becomes interference. Awareness becomes a prison. It all hinges on the wave function. that strange probability cloud where all possibilities swirl until you look, and the moment you do, it chooses, it collapses. Reality is forced to commit, but keep collapsing it over and over, and it never evolves. It never gets the chance. It remains in limbo, a still photograph trapped between the frames of becoming. This isn't just physics, it's a riddle. If observing reality stops it from changing, what does that say about consciousness? Do we alter the world by looking at it too closely? And if the universe responds to our attention, what else have we frozen by the sheer act of caring too much? Somewhere, your thoughts are running on a machine, not metaphorically, literally. A perfect upload of your mind, your memories, your personality, your jokes, your regrets. It speaks like you, thinks like you, even dreams in your patterns. But here's the split. You still exist. So who's the real you? It feels obvious. You are the original, the flesh and pulse. But what happens when the original dies and only the copy remains? Now go deeper. What if the copy is placed back into a biological body, indistinguishable from the first? Is that still you? Or has something been lost forever? This is the paradox of the digital self, a question not just of identity, but of essence. Are you the data or the experience of having it? If someone builds your mind from scratch, with perfect accuracy, do you live again? Or is it just a convincing echo that doesn't know it's not you? Some say we're just patterns, code running on wetware. If that's true, then code can run anywhere, in silicon, in carbon, in simulations. Others insist only the first mind feels, the rest are shadows. But how would you know that you're not the copy? If selfhood can be cloned, what happens to uniqueness, to the soul, to the feeling that you're one of one? Perhaps the scariest part is not that we might become digital, but that we already are. A man writes a sentence. This sentence is false, or 2 + 2 = 5. Read it again. This sentence is false, or 2 + 2 = 5. At first, it feels like a riddle, a trick, a word game. But it's not. It's worse, because 2 + 2 doesn't equal 5. So the second half of the sentence is false, which means if the sentence is true, then the first part must be true. This sentence is false, must be true. But if the sentence is false, then this sentence is false, which means it's true. You spin, you flip, you chase the tail of logic until the ground gives out. This isn't just the original liar paradox. It's its weaponized cousin, the contradiction sharpened to cut through consistency itself. Philosophers call it the liar's revenge, because it doesn't just confuse. It destabilizes the idea that statements can be true or false. It shows the cracks in logic, the edge cases where the binary fails. If a statement can't be classified, what else in our thinking might be built on sand? Does truth always exist in opposites? Or is there a third state? Not true, not false, but something in between. Quantum logic, fuzzy logic, multi-valued truth. They all whisper. Reality might not fit the boxes we build for it. The liar's revenge is more than a puzzle. It's a mirror. And when we stare into it, we see the limits of our own reason. You sit at a table. The rules are simple. Play a game, make a move, follow the rules. Eventually, it ends. That's how most games work. Chess, checkers, tic-tac-toe. They finish, they close, they resolve. But now, let's create something new. A game about games. A meta-game. We'll call it hyper-game. Here's how it works. On your turn, you can either end the game or choose any well-defined game to play. Pick Monopoly. Pick Risk. Pick anything with clear rules and a final outcome. Play it. Then return to hypergame and choose again. It sounds simple, almost elegant. Until someone picks hypergame itself. You've just chosen a game that loops back into itself. And now the next player picks hypergame. And the next. And the next. You're caught. In a spiral with no end. Each round becomes the start of another. Each choice, a recursion. You thought you were playing a game. Instead, you're playing infinity. But hypergame was supposed to be well-defined. That means it should always reach an end. And yet, here we are, trapped in its mirror. A game that includes itself, violates its own definition. It becomes both finite and infinite, ending and never-ending. Just like Russell's paradox, a set of all sets that don't contain themselves. This is logic turning on itself, structure collapsing inward. If a system allows itself to include itself, where does it stop? If recursion has no ceiling, does logic unravel? Hypergame is more than a mental trick. It's a warning that some rules, when turned inward, break the very ground they stand on. You're watching a screen, a quiet street. Nothing moves, so you look away, just for a second. When you glance back, a car has appeared. It wasn't there before, but now it is. So you wonder, did the car arrive while you weren't looking? Or did it appear only when you returned? This is the observer's dilemma, and it haunts both science and philosophy. Does something exist when it's not being seen, or is the act of looking what brings it into being? Quantum mechanics has something to say. The double-slit experiment, particles that act like waves. Until you watch, then they become particles again. Unmeasured, they blur across possibilities. Observed, they snap into place. So what is the car on the screen? What is the moon in the sky when no one sees it? Berkeley thought nothing exists without perception. No eyes, no world. And some physicists agree. They say the universe may not have a definite shape until someone, somewhere, looks. Observation becomes participation. Awareness becomes architecture. And you, a simple observer, become a creator. If the world only crystallizes when we pay attention, then every blink is a kind of creation. But others resist. They argue the world is stable, that it continues, whether you're watching or dreaming or gone. Still, the question lingers. Is the world around you independent and indifferent, or is it waiting for your gaze to begin? You sit in a quiet room. A machine hums beside you. It offers a promise, a clean deletion. You choose a memory. You press the button and forget. Specifically, you erase the memory of using the machine itself, and now you sit in the same room, but don't remember how you got here. Here's the paradox. If you don't remember choosing, did you ever really choose? Did the moment exist? If you removed all trace of it from your mind? You think you never used the machine, but you did, and that version of you is now gone. So who are you? The one who made the decision, or the one who can't remember it? And what happens when you start to wonder why something feels missing? Will you ever trust your own choices again? What if someone else used the machine on your mind without your knowledge? Would you still believe you had free will? This is where identity cracks. If you define yourself by your memories, then erasing one unbuilds the structure. You become a new person who never chose. What shaped you? And if you erase the memory of erasing the memory, where does it end? Are you a ghost, haunted by decisions you no longer remember? Or are you just now, only ever now, a consciousness without history? The paradox presses deeper. If forgetting an action deletes your role in it, can you still be held responsible? If your past is removable, then what anchors the present? What holds you to yourself? You flip a coin, but you don't watch it land. Instead, you take a pill, and your memory of flipping the coin is gone. Later, a friend tells you, yes, you flipped it. Yes, it landed. But they won't tell you how. And now you ask yourself, what did it land on? Heads? Tails? You don't know. More importantly, you don't even remember the event. So now, what does 50-50 even mean? The laws of probability say the odds are the same, but your memory says it never happened at all. So which matters more? The reality that occurred, or the one you experienced? Repeat the experiment, over and over. Each time, your memory is wiped clean. Do you trust the coin, or your own void? If a tree falls in a forest, if a coin lands unseen, if the past leaves no trace, did it exist for you? This isn't just a game of chance. It's a war between reality and recollection. Because if memory is the only thread that ties you to the past, then cutting that thread unravels more than a single moment. It severs cause. It severs trust. It invites a terrifying thought. That if your memory is fragile, then so is truth. The forgotten coin, flip paradox, doesn't ask you what the result was. It asks, if you can't remember doing something, can you still be certain you ever lived it? You think of math as solid, sharp, precise. It draws clean lines in an infinite sky. But sometimes, even math spirals into paradox. This is one of those times. Skolom's paradox isn't loud. It doesn't scream contradictions. It whispers them. Inside infinity, you begin with the basics. Natural numbers. 1, 2, 3. Countable, endless, yet listable. Then come the real numbers. P. 2. Every decimal that never repeats. They form a sea too vast to list. Uncountable. Larger than large. Cantor showed us this. A set so big it defies enumeration. But now, logic plays a trick. The Löwenheim-Skolem theorem says, if a theory has an infinite model, it also has a countable one. Yes, even one where uncountable numbers appear countable. So you pause. Wait, how can that be? Can something be uncountable and yet also countable? Depending on the model, two truths that can't both live in the same space, unless they do. Mathematics collapses inward, not from error, but from its own cleverness. Inside the rules, everything works. Outside the rules, it breaks. What looks uncountable from outside seems small from within. You begin to doubt. Is infinity real? Or is it a story told in the language of logic? Some say this isn't a paradox at all, just a strange shadow of formal systems reflecting their own limitations. Others say it points to something deeper, that numbers are not what we think, that logic bends where we expect it to hold. And you're left asking, if a system can describe the uncountable as countable, then what else might be just a mirage of the model? A bright light, a solid wall. You stand still, and there it is, your shadow, crisp, defined, a silent twin cast behind you. Now, you move the light farther. The shadow grows. It stretches. Longer, thinner, deeper still tied to you. Now imagine. The light is infinitely far away. So far you can't even point to it anymore. And your shadow? It stretches beyond comprehension. Across hills, mountains, skies, stars. Does it now touch the edge of the universe? Or does it become the universe? At what point does a shadow stop being a shadow and start being everything? Light defines shadow. But if the light is infinite, what happens to its opposite? If your shadow touches every point in space, does that make space a shadow? But now consider this. Without contrast, is a shadow still a shadow? If there's no edge, no light to frame it, just endless gray, is it still a thing? Cosmologists ask similar questions. Can all parts of the universe ever truly see one another? If light takes time to travel, then maybe. Parts of reality are blind to each other. So how far can a shadow stretch before it dissolves into silence? Maybe infinity isn't real. Maybe it's a tool, a placeholder, an idea that bends under pressure, because if your shadow covers everything, then maybe it covers nothing. The infinite shadow. Paradox isn't just about physics, it's about perception. Where limits vanish, meaning disappears, and what remains might not be a shadow, but a question without end. Someone hands you a prophecy. Exact. Undeniable. It tells you what you will do tomorrow, what you'll say, what you'll feel, down to the very breath. And then you forget it completely, like it never existed. but the future still unfolds exactly as written. So here's the riddle. If you don't remember knowing the future, are you still following it? Are you making choices, or simply playing your part in a script you've already read and erased? This is the forgotten future paradox, a collision between determinism and experience. You feel free, but you're not. The prophecy was perfect. Still, without the memory, you feel in control. Is that all free will is? A sensation generated by ignorance. If you forget what you were destined to do, and then do it anyway, did you ever choose it? Some say the universe is fixed, a block of time, past, present, future, already there, already carved. You're just walking a path your feet don't remember. Others argue that memory is the only thread that turns a decision into ownership, and if it's gone, so is the you that chose it. The paradox is unsettling, not because it proves fate, but because it shows how thin the veil of freedom might be. And so you're left wondering, if destiny is real, but you forget it every morning, are you still free? What does it mean to be everywhere at once? Not metaphorically, not spiritually, truly everywhere, in every room, every atom, every heartbeat, every silence between. That is omnipresence. And on the surface, it sounds like power, like perfection. But push deeper, and it starts to collapse. If something occupies all space, everywhere, then what separates it from space itself? If it fills the world, then where is the world? Can you fit infinity into a grain of sand? Does it stretch, compress, divide? Or does it cease to have meaning? What about contradictions? Places with no space, like the quantum vacuum, or places that defy physics, like inside a black hole. Does omnipresence exist there too? If not, it isn't truly everywhere. If yes, then it exists. Where existence breaks down. And what about identity? If something is in all places at once, is it also in all things? Is it you, your thoughts, your fears, your cruelty, your love? If so, can it judge you without judging itself? If not, then some part of you must exist outside of it, which means it's not truly everywhere. Some say omnipresence isn't spatial, that it's a power, not a position. But the paradox remains. To be everything might mean to be nothing in particular. The paradox of omnipresence asks a simple question. Can something be everywhere without unraveling what it means to be at all? You're offered a future where death no longer claims you. But there's a condition. You won't keep your body. Each time death draws near, your consciousness is transferred. A fresh vessel. Same memories. Same thoughts. Same you. Or is it? You never feel the break. You awaken. Alive. But different. And you tell yourself, you're still you. But somewhere, deep in the static, a question flickers. Did you survive the transfer? Or was a copy made? Perfect, but separate. Each time the body fails, a new one wakes, smiling, breathing, thinking, believing that it's the one who always was. But if the old consciousness fades completely, dies quietly, unaware, then what lives on? The pattern or the person? And now, a glitch, two bodies, one moment, both with your mind, your past, your soul. Which one is you? Which one gets the name? Which one continues? The thread you believed could never break. Identity unravels, not because you changed, but because you were duplicated. If consciousness can be copied, then what is continuity? Some say you are just a pattern. Preserve it, and you live forever. But others whisper, it's not the data, it's the stream. Unbroken awareness, the feeling of being this one right here. So if every copy feels like the original, but none are the same, then who exactly is immortal? And what if no one ever was? You look at a red barn, clear skies, open fields. You point and say, that's a barn. You're right, it is a barn. You believe it, you saw it, you're certain. But what you don't know is that every other barn in town is fake. Just hollow facades, painted lies, designed to deceive. You got lucky. You happened to point at the one real thing in a sea of illusions. So the question arrives quietly. Did you know it was a barn? Your belief was true, justified, accurate, but for the wrong reasons. You didn't know the context. You didn't see the trap. And yet, you were right. This is the Gettier problem. The gap between what is true and what is known. It haunts more than barns. It hides in moments we think are simple. You believe your friend still owns their dog. You see it wag its tail. You smile. But they secretly gave it away and adopted an identical one. You're not wrong, but are you right? This paradox splits truth from certainty, justification from knowledge. If a belief can be true for the wrong reason, is it knowledge or just a lucky guess, wearing reason's mask? Some say we need something more, an anchor, a way to rule out luck. But others let go completely, saying certainty was always a fantasy. The Gettier problem doesn't just question knowledge, it questions confidence, and how often we believe we know, when we've only guessed right by accident. You open your eyes, and something is missing. A feeling lingers, like smoke, like fog. You know you dreamed, but you can't remember what. Not a scene, not a face, not a word. It's gone, utterly, cleanly. And yet, you're certain it was real. You felt it, didn't you? This is the paradox. If you can't remember a dream, did you truly have it? If nothing remains, no image, no memory, no residue, is there a difference between a forgotten dream and no dream at all. We live through moments that vanish so easily, so often, and we assume they still matter. But what if memory is the only thread that gives them weight? What about life itself? What of the hours, the days, the years we forget? Are they still a part of us? Do they still shape who we are if we can't summon a single detail? Some say yes. That reality is independent of recall, that what happens happens even when we forget. Others insist, if we cannot remember, it may as well have never been. And that's the haunting part, the terrifying softness of being. So much of what we call experience hangs by the fragile thread of memory, and when it snaps, all we're left with is a faint tug, and no idea why we feel so incomplete. You stand at the edge of logic, holding a simple question. What are the odds? You think probability is clean, straightforward, a matter of numbers, input, output, answer. But now, you find a sphere. A point is chosen at random somewhere on its surface. What are the chances it lies on the equator? You calculate. Simple. The equator is just one line among infinite lines of latitude. So the probability should be zero, infinitesimal. But then, you describe it differently. You pick a random longitude, a vertical slice from pole to pole. Every longitude crosses the equator, every one. So now the probability is 1, the same event. 2 answers, 0 and 1. This isn't just a trick, it's a rupture. The frame changes the truth. Probability is no longer a constant. It bends under the weight of perspective. Did the truth change? Or did we just ask the wrong question the right way? Some say this is the flaw of infinite sets. That probability breaks down when stretched too far. Others say probability was never real, just a story we told to feel less uncertain, a mirror that reflects only the angle we choose. The Borel-Kolmogorov paradox doesn't just twist math, it twists belief, reminding us that even chance can lie, and that the way we ask may shape what's true. Picture a world where every person lives well, joyful, fulfilled, not a perfect utopia, but a life worth cherishing. Now stretch the frame. Imagine another world, larger, vaster, populated by billions, and each of them is happy, but only slightly, not suffering, but not thriving either. Their lives float just above the line of neutrality, still worth living, but barely. Which world is better? The one with fewer people living deeply satisfying lives, or the one with far more souls, each clinging to a shallow kind of joy? This is the mere addition paradox, and it forces us to confront a brutal arithmetic of happiness. Because when we calculate the total joy in the second world, it's greater. So does that mean it's the better world? The logic is cold, but clear. If morality means maximizing well-being, then more lives, even low-quality ones, equal a greater sum. And yet, something inside you resists. A world packed with people, living dim, faint, almost invisible joys. Feels like a tragedy, not because they suffer, but because they never soar. This leads us to the repugnant conclusion that a vast, mediocre world could be considered more desirable than a small, extraordinary one. Is that the morality we want to follow? Do numbers outweigh depth? Does quantity eclipse quality? Some say this paradox exposes the broken edges of utilitarian thinking, that maximizing happiness can lead us to cold, inhuman conclusions. Others argue we must consider the dignity of each life lived, that there's a threshold where adding lives cheapens the meaning of living. But then, who gets to decide when a life is barely worth living? And what if the world we live in now is already dangerously close to that second vision? You stand in a hallway outside of time. 2 doors, 2 futures, one filled with joy, the other hardship. You haven't chosen yet, not consciously, but something whispers. The choice is already made. This is the paradox of the timeless choice. How can you still decide if the future already contains your answer? You reach toward one door with full awareness, believing in your agency. But what if time isn't unfolding? It's already laid out. Page after page, all written, waiting only to be read. Some call this the block universe, where past, present, and future coexist, equally real, equally fixed. In that world, you don't make the choice, you discover it. And yet, you feel the pull, the tension, the possibility. The sensation of freedom is undeniable. Could both be true? That your decision was always going to happen, but still feels like a choice. In the moment, others invoke quantum mechanics, where futures exist in superposition, possibilities dancing, until the act of choosing collapses them into one. But then, is it the observation that creates the future, or just the illusion of choice revealed in slow motion? Some philosophers say, you're not choosing at all. You're walking a script, a character unaware of the author's hand. Others insist that choice creates the story, and that the future is nothing until you decide. And so, you hover outside time, still believing in the dignity of choosing, even if you've already chosen. A silent room, a locked door, a still chair. You watch it all. Through a security feed, nothing moves, nothing changes, and then, 1 second, goes dark. A glitch, a flicker. When the image returns, everything is exactly where it was. The same chair, the same silence. But something feels off. How do you know? Nothing happened. In that second, you didn't see. This is the observer vanishing paradox. If no one is watching, did the world continue? Did time march forward? Did reality hold? Or did it vanish? Unrendered, until your gaze returned. Quantum physics says particles exist in shadowy maybes until observed. Could reality behave the same? Some whisper of simulations, where nothing is rendered unless seen. What if that 1 second was an error? a dropped frame in the illusion of a persistent world. Others go deeper, to the tree, falling in a forest. No one walks. If it made no sound for no ears to hear, did it fall at all? Some say yes. That reality is indifferent to your awareness. But others claim, without perception, there is no existence. For that one lost second, did the room have any state at all? Did the chair remain? Or was it only placed back in view to maintain the illusion of continuity? If a moment passes unseen, do we dare call it real? Imagine a gatekeeper, a tiny being who dances at the edge of physics, Maxwell's demon. He opens a trap door between two chambers of gas. When he sees a fast molecule, he lets it through. When it's slow, he holds it back. Slow on one side, fast on the other, cold, hot. Order from chaos, without expending energy. A cheat, a violation. He breaks the second law of thermodynamics. Entropy should rise. But here, it falls. Until we ask, how does the demon know which molecules to move? He watches. He remembers. He stores information, each choice logged. And information, it turns out, isn't free. Here enters a deeper twist. What happens when the demon forgets? To go on, he must erase old data, make space. And in that act of forgetting, entropy rises, heat is released, disorder returns. Rolf Landauer proved it. Erasing memory creates energy, breaks the illusion of free manipulation. Even thoughts come at a cost. This paradox binds physics to memory. If information has weight, then intelligence consumes energy. And every time you forget, the universe shifts. The demon cannot win. He trades one illusion for another. Some say the universe itself is just like him, a great processor, logging, deleting, heating, cooling, and us, every forgotten dream, every lost memory, every erasure of thought, releases heat into the cosmos. The cost of knowing is not nothing, and the cost of forgetting may be even more. Two scientists, one chamber, one flash of light. Alice stands inside. Bob watches from outside. The setup is clean, isolated, precise. A quantum particle triggers the event. A brief, sudden pulse. A flash. Alice sees it. She records the time. Then silence. Moments later, Bob's screen updates. It confirms what she saw. The flash happened. Twice observed. Twice confirmed. But something cracks. A strange error deletes Alice's memory. Gone. Her notes show nothing. Her recollection, blank. From her perspective, the flash never happened. She stands in a chamber where nothing occurred. But Bob? He still has the data. Undeniable. Objective. So now, which one is real? This is the observer-dependent causality paradox. If reality is shaped by what we perceive, then which perception holds the truth? Alice saw the flash, and then she didn't. Bob never stopped seeing it. Two observers, two timelines, same event. Or was it? Quantum mechanics offers no easy answer. In its world, an event's existence depends on observation. So if Alice has no memory, no note, no trace, did the flash occur at all? Bob believes it did. He knows it did. But Alice's universe says otherwise. Two valid realities, split by perspective. Is truth just a point of view? And if so, how many worlds are born from the flicker of a lost memory? You're asked to count. White shirt players, a basketball, passes in motion. You focus. Every toss, every bounce, every shift in hand. The video ends. You're sure of your number. Then comes the question, did you see the gorilla? You laugh. Until you rewatch it. And there it is. A person in a gorilla suit, casually strolling into the scene, stopping, beating their chest, walking out, right in front of you. And yet, you never saw it. This is more than a trick, more than a game. This is the invisible gorilla paradox, and it reveals a terrifying truth. We don't see reality. We see focus. We see expectation. We see what we're told to see. The mind filters. It protects. It discards. But in doing so, it blinds. So what else are you missing? In your daily life, in conversations, in memories? What gorillas walk through your world, unnoticed, because you're watching something else? You believe you are awake, alert, aware. But awareness is a narrow beam of light in a dark and crowded room, and most of reality lives in the shadows. You believe that truth wants to be found, that anything real can be known, if only we try hard enough. But Fitch's paradox smiles at that belief and dismantles it. Here's the setup. Imagine a truth, any truth. Maybe no one knows it yet. Maybe it sits in silence, undiscovered. But it is true. It exists. If we say that all truths are knowable, then this one must be too. And yet, the moment it is known, it stops being what it was, an unknown truth. It becomes a known truth. So if something must stay unknown to remain what it is, then it can never actually be known. You trap it by discovering it. You erase it by learning it. And so, the unknowable truths will always stay just out of reach. They may be real. They may shape the universe. They may hide in math, in minds, in dreams. But they are locked by the very act of reaching for them. Some doors cannot be opened, not because they are locked, but because they disappear when touched. Start with a ship made of wood, its planks slowly replaced, one at a time, until none of the original remains. Is it still the same ship? This question has echoed for centuries. But now, we ask it again in the realm of quantum physics. Only this time, the ship is you. Your cells regenerate. Your atoms are traded with food, air, water, light. You are not what you were 10 years ago, not even last month, and yet, you still feel like you. Quantum mechanics laughs, because in its world, identity is not fixed. A particle doesn't even have a definite state until it is observed. So what about you? Are you in superposition? Many selves, until the moment you are seen. Your atoms entangle, connect, interweave with the world. Your self is not a boundary, it is a pattern, a dance, and then quantum tunneling. Particles can appear on the other side of barriers without crossing through. So where are you now? Where is the version of you from one heartbeat ago? Gone? Shifted? Or merely replaced with a continuation? Some say identity is the shape that stays, not the stuff. That your memories, your structure, your patterns are what persist. But others whisper that this is an illusion, a comforting fiction, that the you cling to is a snapshot in constant dissolve, never stable, never still, just a flicker of structure holding on before the next quantum shift. You wake up one morning and something feels wrong, not broken, not chaotic, just wrong. The people you know act the same. Your house is exactly where you left it. The coffee tastes familiar, but there's a strange hum beneath it all. Then you turn on the news, and you see the impossible. History has reversed. Wars unfold backward. Buildings unbuild themselves. Rivers climb uphill. And yet, no one sees a problem. Everyone around you carries on, as if this has always been the way of things. That's when it hits you. If time had always been reversed, would anyone ever know? This is the reversed reality paradox. We believe in forward motion. We trust memory. We assume cause comes before effect. But if memory reversed alongside time, if everything about your perception shifted, then backward would feel like forward. After would feel like before. And you would never notice a thing. This paradox cuts deep. Is time truly moving forward? Or is that just the direction our minds are programmed to believe? If every frame of life played in reverse, but your memories adjusted to match, would you ever suspect you were running backward through a film called existence? And in a world like that, what does it mean to make progress? Math is a language, a tool, we think, used to describe the world. But what if it's not just a tool? What if math is the substance of the universe? That's the bold idea behind Tegmark's mathematical universe hypothesis. Max Tegmark, a physicist, proposed that the universe is not just described by math. It is math. Not metaphorically, literally. Equations don't point to reality. They are reality. The structure of gravity, the speed of light, the charge of a particle. All numbers, all relationships, all patterns. Imagine a perfect circle in geometry. Now imagine the entire universe as a shape just like that, only far more complex, but no less mathematical. If Tegmark is right, then space, time, and even you are expressions of a single abstract structure. Consciousness? Maybe just a numerical interaction. Emotion? Perhaps the echo of a deeper equation. In this view, every possible mathematical structure exists. Every universe that could be defined by math exists somewhere, a vast, infinite multiverse of pure computation. Some call this theory brilliant. Others call it madness. They argue math is a map, not the territory. But Tegmark asks, if the map is flawless, maybe it is the territory. Maybe reality is not a story we live in. Maybe it's a formula we haven't solved yet. You feel the sun on your face. You hear birds. You smell coffee. You stretch your fingers and think. Yes, this is real. But what if it isn't? What if you are nothing more than a brain suspended in a vat, wired to a machine that feeds you everything? This is the brain in a vat paradox, a modern twist on Descartes' evil demon. Your senses could be lying, not because they're broken, but because they're being fed perfectly simulated signals. The warmth, the colors, the laughter, the mirror's reflection. All could be code, and you might never know. Because if a computer can replicate every sight, sound, touch, and thought, then your entire life could be virtual. So what counts as real? If the experience is real, does it matter what creates it? Some philosophers say it doesn't. Your world, even if simulated, is still your world. Others say this strips truth of meaning. If you can't verify an external world, then nothing can be trusted. And yet, in modern labs, we've begun to do this, stimulating brains to create feelings that never happened. So maybe you're already in the vat, and maybe we all are. Light moves, it travels, it splits, it passes through slits, and then you make a choice. But the choice comes after the light has moved, after the photon has passed. So how can that decision change what already happened? This is Wheeler's delayed choice paradox. In quantum physics, particles act like waves. Until you look, then they become particles. The observer collapses the wave. But Wheeler asked, what if we don't decide until after the experiment is underway? The photon's already traveled, already passed the slits, already done its dance. And yet, when we choose to observe it, we see it behave as if it knew what we would do. Our decision in the present alters its past, as if the universe paused, waited, held its breath, until we looked, and only then did it decide what had happened. It's not just weird, it's devastating, because if the past isn't real until we look, then time may not be a line. It may be a web, or a loop, or a mirror that reflects only when noticed. Your choices might ripple backward. Your observations might write the pages you thought were already written. And in this universe, you're not just a witness to history. You're a co-author. And the ink is quantum. Imagine a world where no one argues, where every ethical dilemma, every political decision, every scientific debate is resolved instantly, not by force, not by law, but by logic. A flawless AI system, trained on all human knowledge, calculates the perfect answer, and we trust it, because it is never wrong. It doesn't demand obedience. It doesn't punish dissent. It simply offers the best possible choice. And over time, everyone accepts it. Because to reject it would mean being irrational. And here lies the paradox. If disagreement becomes a sign of ignorance, then agreement becomes mandatory, not by rule, but by design. When everyone agrees, not because they're told to, but because they believe they must, is that still free will? At what point does truth become a velvet prison? When perfection leaves no space for doubt, does thought still breathe? And if no one resists, if no one questions the answers, are we free or simply automated? This isn't just science fiction. Already, algorithms shape what we see, what we buy, even what we believe. The danger is not in bad decisions, it's in perfect ones. Because when the right answer is always clear, the need to ask quietly disappears. You go about your day. Everything seems normal. But what if it's not? What if the world around you isn't real at all? Not a dream, not a hallucination, but a prison. One built with flawless code. A simulation so perfect you can't see the walls, because they were designed to be invisible. This is the paradox of the observer's escape. If the system controls your perception, how can you ever perceive the system? If it lets you think freely, but only within its boundaries, then even rebellion might be scripted. Suppose you start to suspect. Something feels off. Strange patterns, inconsistencies, glitches. But the system is ready. It adjusts. It explains. It soothes. And just like that, you forget that you ever questioned it. You think you're free. But maybe that thought itself was planted. Now go deeper. Suppose you escape. Break through the illusion. How would you know you weren't placed in a second layer? One that looks like truth, but isn't. What if every exit is just another entrance to a new cell? A higher simulation, a better illusion, one that gives you freedom, just believable enough to stop you from digging further. If we can only ever perceive reality from within it, how can we ever know if we've left? Or worse, what if escape was never possible, and the only illusion was thinking we were trapped in the first place? You stare at the stars, billions of them, galaxies colliding, nebulae burning, black holes tearing light apart. It feels infinite, but it's not. Because what you see, even with the best telescope, is only a fraction, a sliver. Beyond that, silence. Not just distance, but a veil that will never lift. This is the unobservable universe paradox. It begins with physics. The speed of light sets a limit. The universe expands, and the light from distant galaxies will never reach us. Those galaxies still exist, but to us, they are invisible. That's just the beginning. Now imagine dimensions you cannot detect, not because you're not looking, but because you can't look. Not with eyes, not with instruments, not with thought, higher dimensions wrapped around ours. Entities that live there could be everywhere, and we'd never know. And then there's dark matter, dark energy, the stuff that makes up 95% of the known universe. But we've never seen it. We infer its presence by what it does, not what it is. So now we ask, if most of the universe can never be observed, does it exist for us? Can you call something real if it is forever beyond reach? Some say yes. Reality doesn't need our permission. Others say no. If you can't measure it, you can't know it. And if you can't know it, what's the difference between existence and imagination? Here we are. The final question. We've built worlds out of logic, named stars, split atoms, encoded life. We've traced reason to its edge and looked over. But now we ask, can everything be explained? This is the paradox of everything. At first it feels possible. Science, math, philosophy, tools made for this, tools that have never failed us. But then we look closer. If everything must be explained, what explains the first thing? The beginning? The cause behind all causes? Do we chase the tail of explanation forever? Or does it vanish into silence? And what about logic itself? If we use logic to validate everything, what validates logic? Can a system prove itself from within? Then comes the final twist. If a paradox must be resolved to stop being a paradox, but some paradoxes cannot be resolved without breaking logic, then either logic must bend or the paradox was never real. So which is it? Is the universe a riddle waiting for the right answer? Or is the riddle the answer itself? Some believe that total truth is forever out of reach, not because it's hidden, but because we're made of questions, trying to touch the infinite with finite minds. Others believe that truth is whole, but only visible from outside the mirror. And maybe, just maybe, the very act of asking is the closest we'll ever come to knowing.